Hello YouTubers, and welcome to this next in the series on calculators and maths. Now, as noted by the title, the Casio FX-CP400 or the Casio ClassPad FX-CP400 has arrived. So thanks to one of you for actually bringing this to my attention, because I hadn't actually realized it was around. Now, this latest iteration, the kind of color version, this 400, was released a couple of months ago. It costs around the $150 to $160 mark. So it's certainly up there with the price of what I paid for the HP Prime, but the HP Prime now I've seen has been selling for considerably less. So the one thing I want to see is, for one, it looks like, if you look at the initial kind of keyboard layout, it is very simple. There are actually no secondary functions by the look of it, but that means everything's going to be offlaid into the interface. And Casio are touting this as a very ease of use machine. Now, so far, as you know from the previous reviews, I must say the Casio calculators to me have had the nicer, easier to look at displays and fonts, and have been less intimidating to use. So again, that is the goal for me as I'm trying to kind of grow my knowledge again in mathematics and find the right tools for that. I want to find which tool has the right functionality and ease of use. And then we're going to start looking at processing power, because that's a topic which is also going to come up. So we're going to get this onto the bench. We'll take it out of its retail packaging just to see what is inside, and then we'll fire it up. I'm going to give myself 1 or 2 minutes to get quickly acquainted with it and see if in 1 or 2 minutes can I enter that mathematical expression easily into it and solve it, do some basic arithmetic, and then produce some graphs fairly easily. So let's get down to the bench. Right, so here we go. As you can see, again, unfortunately, it is in this rather nasty blister pack, which of course is great for display, but in terms of getting it out when you get it home, not easy. The suggested courses on here, you can see are noted as pre-calculus, calculus, multiple variable calculus, vector analysis, engineering, statistics, and geometry. It also has computer algebraic system. So it should be a rather powerful beast. As I say, in time to come, we're going to put it side by side with the other machines that I've got to see how it does compare. But of course, the one big thing they do tout is ease of use, because as I say, the one thing that caught me is just if you look at the keypad, you can see there are virtually no secondary functions on the keypads. I mean, I can see a shift probably to the power on the button over there. So it means you are literally left to using the stylus and the display. Now the display, they say handily can be either upright or can be turned sideways, which might be quite handy for entering long equations. Anyway, so let's get out the pack and see what it looks like. Right, now this may seem an odd bit of advice to tell you how to take it out of the pack, but some people may try and take a knife to the packaging and may cut either into the calculator itself or the manuals. So my advice, I do have a very sharp set of scissors, is to go and attack that edge ribbing. You can see the kind of edging which goes around the side, is to cut that off so that you can it then easily splits apart. So you can try and avoid any damage to the actual calculator inside. Right, so once we've got the kind of cutting over, let's just see what we have got. So just a simple display card. They've got various guides in different languages. They've got a warranty slip. They then have a CD, which obviously enables you to fire up. I presume it's got an emulator on a PC, and that is something we can look at in future videos, the kind of on the emulators and the ease of programming, doing programming on a PC and then downloading it to the calculator. That for me is of particular interest, because one of the things I want to do to check performance is have, let's say, a graph, an algorithm, an equation, and perhaps some maths function which test the kind of time and processing power of a calculator, and having to go and enter potentially an extensive program to do that on the keypad might be a challenge. So there, is it easy to do that on a PC and download it? Then comes with these interesting jacks, these kind of sub-miniature, look like kind of stereo jacks. I'm not sure what that's for. We then have a USB connector. It comes with, this runs off AAA batteries, which they've got on the side here, and they will note as I take this out, they state 100 hours on those. So that was interesting to me, because as I said, on the other calculators which have got a built-in lithium-ion battery, they also state 100 hours. And I would have thought you'd have got more than 100 hours out of the pen light. So that's going to be interesting. The argument there could be, well, if you only get 100 hours out of a set of pen light batteries or AAA batteries, why not have the lithium? But of course, if you are going to an exam and your battery's running flat, then you may, at least you can whip out and buy some quickly and be ready for the exam. However, potentially you might be replacing batteries frequently, or you might need to use rechargeables. We'll look into that in the future. Right, so here is the beast itself. Certainly my initial impressions in the hand, it's got a very nice quality feel to it, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to put it on the bench so that we can have a closer look. Right, so here we go, all the packaging removed. It does have a protective slide-off case like most of the models have these days. It'll obviously presumably, yeah, just slip in that way to provide protection. It does have the stylus. They've got a secure place to keep the stylus, which is in the top here. We all note how easy that is to use once we kind of get it on and I start getting a feel for it. It's actually spring loaded, so it kind of springs in there. Just a note for the batteries, it's perhaps not immediately obvious, but the battery entry is down here, and there's this, it says unlock, so you have to get your finger and slide that to the slide, and then that enables you to get into the actual battery case itself. It then simply just lifts up and the AAA batteries go into the back. Right, then it does have these little look like silicon pads to actually give it grip on a surface, and certainly they, to tell you the truth, the other calculators that I have I think have got better grip. It's better than nothing, but it does have the ability to slip around, and this is a rubberized mat that it's on. So this is the top end. Obviously that jack goes in the top there, and then you've got your USB port over here. Let's take a close look at the front of it. Right, so I'll just give you a quick close view. There's obviously a fair amount of screen real estate. We then get down to some kind of hard settings over here, and I can see the one of them is for the actual rotate, and you then get down to the keyboard layout, which is very, as I say, very simple. So as I said, most of the driving is going to be done from the display. The initial feel on the keypad feels good. It's obviously got a navigation here as well. Okay, and by doing that, it's literally just fired up, and obviously now wants calibration of the stylus. So let's go ahead and do that. Right, so it's asking to use the stylus to touch the center of each cross on the screen. I said obviously for initial calibration. And just note, when you are doing this, you want to be looking straight over the device, unlike me who's doing it from the side, because you obviously might then get some parallax error. There you go, and then we go into the kind of setup. So I'll just quickly say, yeah, QWERTY, yeah. At the moment, it's going to have alkaline batteries, but as you can see, it's asking you if it's got nickel metal hydride. Okay, it's then saying that obviously the battery capacity, because obviously I presume the battery fuel gauge you can be set if you give it the capacity of if you've got rechargeable batteries. That's my guess. Right, so now we get to the main screen. So what I'm going to do, I'm literally going to take 1 or 2 minutes to see if I can quickly navigate around this myself. I'll come back and we'll see whether it's easy enough then to go and enter a mathematical expression and some graphs. Right then, so I'm going to say it certainly is worthwhile when you get this is to have a quick glance through this quick start guide, because there are certain little bits and pieces that you're going to want to know to understand on this to kind of start driving it immediately. As I've realized, even just entering a simple mathematical expression, there certainly are a few quirks which are different from the other devices which I've used, and I'll try and demonstrate those now. So for one, what we're going to do again, we're going to go into the kind of main scratch area and enter this mathematical expression just to see what it looks like and what it's like entering it, because as I said, there are a few quirks to do this, which may seem obvious once after you've done it, or you may initially always work that way. but let's see what happens when we get to the main work area. Now on the main work area, as you can see, so that is the kind of main application where you can go and play around with basic calculations. I'm going to go through and tell you about these other applications and just briefly go into them so you can see them and then talk about what they do. But we can go into the main. The main can always be reached on the screen. I'll bring you close up just now. There are some quick keys at the bottom here for getting to certainly the menu system and then back to main if that's your main work area. Right, so where you're viewing this on the actual camera, I'm not sure whether you're going to be able to see the font easily, but what I'm going to start off by doing, and then I'll switch into a closer view, is just trying to enter the first part of this. So obviously it's 2, and then we need pi. So immediately, this is where we need obviously functions which aren't on the standard keyboard itself. So you then got over here this keyboard switch, which you can click, or there is a soft touch as well. But you bring that up and then you get your kind of menu system, which gives you your maths functions. And as you can see, it's labeled math 1, 2, 3, and then it's got pi over here. So I would just also go 2 pi, and then I want to square it. And again, squaring's not on the standard key, and there's a couple of ways to do it. You've got an x squared over here, so it gives you that kind of cap, what I'd call a cuppy, and then a 2 to show you squared. Let's just try the other method and see how that works. So you can go get it displayed as you would see it in a textbook rather than having the kind of little caret sign. And then minus 17. And then we want to, okay, so I've gone and put a mistake there. I had to move back down. So there's a back key. I then push the side navigation key and go minus 17. And then I want that all divided by the 5 root of 11. So at this point, as it's giving me the kind of numerator denominator, can I move into that mode? If I push the down key, it doesn't go down. If I push the numerator denominator, it puts a split over there. So now I'm realizing I need brackets over here. Now there's a few challenges straight away, as you can see. I'm switching between a physical keyboard and having to use a stylus, which when I started doing this, you kind of realize can be a little bit disconcerting because you're typing a few things in on the physical keyboard and then reverting to the stylus. But what you can do is if you go down here, you've got something called number. If I click on that, you then get your keypad laid out so you can work just with the stylus. So that you can see what's going on the display, I'm going to bring you down to that mode. Right, so you're a little closer now and you can see I've got the kind of soft keypad up. To make the viewing easy, there you can see basically I've got the backlight I think set for a minute. If I tap the screen, the backlight comes back on. I can obviously push the rotate to get then a kind of landscape view, which might be easier for viewing. So we'll give this a bash and see how well that works. Let's see if I bring up the keyboard, I then have the keyboard over there. You'll have to excuse, sorry, some of the flicker which you might be seeing on the screen. The screen is certainly not doing that to me. So that's obviously a conflict with obviously the scanning on the actual display and my camera. Right, so as I've got that there, I need to go and backspace. So again, so here's an interesting thing. I've obviously gone and set this up so that I can work this way. If I've got to use navigation now, so this is where things become a little bit disorientating. I do have a kind of delete key over here. What I need to do is go and put brackets or parentheses around that. On the keypad itself, you've got these parentheses over here, but I see they have got the soft version over here. And if I hit that, when I was using the keypad, it was wanting to put it right round there. So let's just delete that again. And no, it's obviously changed the mode, so it's actually operating far easier. So if I put the parentheses around that, close it, and then say, right, we've got to go up to math 1. I can say, right, I've got I then want to kind of go down to the denominator. I push that, but no, that's obviously not coming up right. So I'd have to go and clear that. And in terms of driving this, you can see it's fairly easy to highlight. So there I'm highlighting and say, right, that I want divided by. So there's a few different things. It's like the HP50. It's got its equation editor and you kind of go and highlight and do things. So there's a few interesting things to note here when you're driving with a stylus and trying to get your expression entered. Right, so now I'm going to go back to the number keypad, and I obviously want 5 plus the square root. I've got to go to the math, square root, back to number 11. And then I obviously want to come out of that, because that we want to add. And then we're going to go open brackets 13 plus, or I should say wrong, divide by 2.5, close, and multiply that by 7. So as you can see, this is, I'm going to say it's got nice screen real estate, but it does take a little bit of getting used to switching between, if you're not going to be using the physical keyboard and then just relying on the stylus, you're switching between different modes to bring up the function that you want. Some may see that as a pro, as a con, it might take a little bit getting used to. Right, so I'm going to execute that to get an answer. And as you can see straight off what it's gone and done, it's gone and simplified the expression rather than provide an answer. But you've got this key over here where you can switch between obviously providing an exact or approximate answer. So if I click on that, I need to go and highlight the expression, go and click on that, and bang, then we get our answer of 36.729, which is the answer we're looking for. So as you can see, the font and the layout is very nice. I'm going to switch it around, because in the other mode we then should get to see the whole expression. So yes, it's certainly different. I'm going to say it is different from, let's say, like the HP Prime or the other calculators. It is a different way of working between kind of a kind of virtual way of, let's say, that you'd use on a tablet or a phone, and having a physical keyboard. Right, so let's just go through the menus and see what else this can do. Right, so to get back to your main system, as I said, on the pad down here, you just click main, and obviously your first selection here is main, and obviously because this is application based, whatever you're working with is still here. You can obviously go highlight things with your stylus. You can actually cut and paste and pass these between applications as well. In your main, so basically in this main area, this is where you do general calculations, function calculations, matrix, and you've got your computer algebraic system here as well. So on the bottom here, I think if you click on ALG, you can see we can go into an algebraic assistance system, and this is something that we'll have a look at in more in-depth review and a tutorial on the calculator. We go back to the main. The next thing is something called e-activity. In the e-activity, this is where you kind of create e-activity files which can be used for inputting formulas, text, and it's tied to other ClassPad applications. Something new to me, something I'm going to have to learn more about. The next thing we have then is statistics, which is obviously where you can obviously create lists of data or information, perform statistical calculations, and you can obviously draw graphs based on that information. Next we have the spreadsheet, and again the spreadsheet, you can obviously go and input data into the spreadsheet, manipulate it, you can graph it, and you can obviously also perform statistical calculations and draw graphs from the spreadsheet. We then get down to graphing and tables, and obviously here we're going to come back to this and actually enter a function to see how well the function works. Now bringing in closer just so you can see the screen a little better, and what I want to demonstrate here is that often screens can be split, or applications can have two screens. They're split into an upper half and a lower half. And you can see this upper half has kind of got a more bold border to it. That means this is the active part. So obviously here is where you can enter the function. If I touch the bottom part, you can see it becomes the active part of the application, or active part of the screen. Now what you can do, you can go and flick those around. If you prefer them to be kind of switch them around to be top and bottom, you've got a swap feature over here to switch those. And you can, depending on which one's active, you can go and resize it so it's full screen, or bring it back. So if I want the kind of function entry to be full screen, I kind of click on that and then I get a full screen function entry. Going back to the main menu over here, we then get geometry, which is obviously where you can go and play with geometry. And by the looks of things, they've gone and set things up so you can go and use this very easily to kind of go and enter geometry bits and pieces and play with them. On this over here, you can go and enter the triangle. I can go and resize the size of the triangle. I can obviously enter on it and pull it back. I can go and enter on one of the points, and you can see it comes up with the kind of coordinates down over here. I can carefully select that, draw that down. You can see the actual coordinates changing here, and it'll change things accordingly. We go back to the main menu. We've then got conics, so you can, in the conics menu, you can go and draw graphs of conic sections. We then have differential equations, so you can obviously draw vector fields and solution curves to explore differential equations. So again, this is something which I'm going to find intriguing to work with. You then have a numeric solver. So this is going to be very interesting because I'm intrigued in equations and kind of solving for an equation manipulation. And on many calculators, you have to do some very simple manipulation first before you can actually solve things. And here you can do the solving without any transforming or simplifying. So this is going to be an interesting application to look at in the future. You've then got sequences, and where you can obviously perform sequence calculations or solve recursion expressions. You've then got financial, and here you can see you've got a whole list of doing simple compound interest, cash flow, amortization. So you've got a whole lot of financial features over here. You then over here to select your second menu system at the bottom of the screen, you simply touch. You've then got an area where you can go and write programs and program the actual calculator. You've got Econ EA200. Now on this is something where you can go and control. You can input data, have a sensor, I believe, inputting data, and as you can see, you can say the sensor's got voltage, provide a range that it's going to operate between, and a sample, and this can obviously act then as a data logger for that. So again, something which could be quite a useful application. You've then got communications, where you can obviously go and set up the communications, and you then have these systems set up. And in here is where you can go and set a lot of things, like for instance, if you go to battery, you can go and set your auto power off and the duration of the backlight. You can go and set the contrast. Now I've set this up at the highest contrast to make it easier to see on the camera, but you can go on initial, you can see it's slightly softer. You can obviously go and play over here with the actual contrast settings themselves. I'm going to set it up to the maximum. Then you've got for instance over here, you've got something which will erase. So this operation deletes all data in memory, including pre-installed data. So that could be quite a dangerous one. So just be very wary of ticking around here, because I presume you can go and reload it, but if you've got your own data and you haven't backed it up, you could go and lose it. You can then go and define the shift key. You've obviously got your shift key on the keypad over here. You can obviously go and define what function it's going to do. You can go and set your language. But what I want to do, I want to go back into the main area at the moment and just show you've got obviously a menu system at the top here where you can go and select various maths functions. Right, so what I wanted to show you was the one quirk with the kind of menu system on here. Let's say, for instance, you've got loads of configuration. You can go into set up things. You can obviously easily go and change the way the calculator is set up in terms of degrees, radians, standard. But on here, if I, let's say, go to the number formatting, basic format, the one quirk I've seen with the menu system, which I think they could have done better, you've got this menu system where you can go and select obviously your number system, the format that you want it to be in. And you've got this slider down the side to go and select. So you can obviously tap, 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 tap. You've also got the slider which you can move and go and select. But as you can see, as I slide it, it doesn't change. I would have thought it would have actually slid up and down and showed these moving up and down. Instead, you have to go tap, tap, tap if you want to get through them. You can obviously go quicker like you would on a normal Windows display, but I would have thought they could have done that a little bit better. You can go and format and set up your various areas of mathematics to see how they are set up. So again, there's going to be a fair bit of time spent to get to know the back end and have a tutorial on this to see how to use it properly. Right, so let's go and have a look and see how straightforward it is just to graph these functions. So obviously for that we're going to go into the graph and table application. Within, as I said, we've got the kind of split screen, the top screen at the moment, which we can obviously flip around, is where we're going to enter our function. And obviously straight off, I could start entering on the actual physical keypad. You can actually see it does have the variables nicely laid up there, which you'd be using. So I could use that, but just to keep everything in view, we'll see what it's like using the actual keyboard. So for that, I obviously need the number keyboard. So we want to go X and we want to square it. So in this case, we're just going to do that, -2. Push execute to enter it and to enter the next function, which is just simply going to be x plus 2. The next function is going to be sine, so I then have to go and find the trig, go sine, and then I have to go back to my numbers again, x, and then we can close that. Right, so I've got my functions entered. I'm going to remove the keyboard, and at this point in time obviously we don't have anything displayed, so we click over here, it's got a graph, click that, and then bang, we get the graph drawn. Now I can tell you now, if you did look at my review of the HP Prime, the HP Prime was just bang, it was straight on, so I can tell immediately there was a little lag in that. I'll make it full screen so that we can actually see what it looks like full screen. You can, with your stylus now, drag around and navigate, but just note that was it stalling while it kind of redrew. As it's working, if you note down here, I'm going to do something. When I let go, when it's thinking, you can see it's got that kind of little whirl over there to show that it's actually processing something. And while that's happening, let's say I want to go and zoom. If I try and touch anything else, it's not going to react. So as I move, if I try and touch, that won't work unless it's finished processing. So right, so if I want to kind of zoom in, so let's just go, you've got the menu system zoom, I can go to original, which is how when we started off. On the soft menus over here, you can see it's got a box, so I can select box, I can draw a box around the area that I want to zoom, off it goes. But as I said, navigating around, I can certainly see there's a little bit of lag. The processor has to do a little bit of work as it does a redraw. Now, there certainly is a little bit of a lag. You've obviously got a trace feature over here. So if I click that over there, you've got a trace. Now, when I pull this up, I was expecting that I could use the stylus to kind of go and select the graphs. And again, I've not had much time on this, obviously, and I might be doing something not obvious where I should be able to use a stylus, but by the looks of things, you have to resort to using the keypad. So I can then, as you can see, like with a normal, let's say the 50G HP, or let's say the TI-89, I can then use this cursor to go and drive that along the function and see the values. If I push the up navigation, it then goes and selects another function that I've entered, and I can then navigate along that. It's slow, I must say, just pushing it, you know, if I wanted to drive it fast along there, I've got it held down. That navigation is slow. I push up to get to the X+2. So you can see it obviously shows you what function you've got selected. But I would have thought I should be able to use a stylus to navigate around there. I say in time, perhaps if I read the manual, there is a possibility, but straight off one logically would thought you could do that, but you can't. But there you go, that's the kind of basic operation. As you see, that's the kind of speed at which it operates. You can obviously bring up a list function to go, if you want a list view of the actual, a table view, if you will, of the functions. Again, you can go and swap those around, top and bottom. If I want to make this full screen, I can go and pull that full screen, or I can go back and have a look at the functions. And again, if I wanted to enter a whole lot of them, that's the active window, make that full screen, then there you go. Right, so I hope you gained some value out of that kind of initial quick overview of this ClassPad calculator. I'm going to say that my initial opinion is that it is a little quirky getting used to navigating around the screen with a stylus. To me at this point in time, if you are going to be using the physical keypad for simple operations, that's fine, but you're obviously buying this to do some complex work. So then you're going to, if you don't want to be interacting between the keypad and the screen and the stylus, you're going to be using the stylus and the kind of soft menu system in there. And some people may then argue and say, well, then it's just like a mini computer. It could be, I could have an iPad or some tablet or a smartphone with the applications and be doing it there. So over time, I say, we'll come to see whether functionally this kind of format and this way of working does work or not. But anyway, if you are interested in supporting me, then please do. I'll have a link down below to my Amazon store where you can purchase it if you want to, all the other calculators there. And I'll certainly be back soon where we go and place them all side by side and do a comparison and say that what we want to do is do a comparison of all of them graphing, and then get in to see how well each of them performs certain functions and their performance. So far as we've seen, this on the graphing certainly is a little laggy, but having them side by side, it may not be as bad as others. Anyway, thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you soon. Cheers.